On a deadly winter night in Wyoming, biker Jax Carter was riding his Harley through the storm when something on the roadside made him hit the brakes hard. Headlight flashes across the snow. A woman shaking in the cold, clutching a newborn in her arms. Beside her, a little boy with a broken arm, barely able to stand. Close up on Jax's eyes, determined. Jax thought he was just stopping to help strangers, but their violent pursuer was already closing in. What happened next changed all of their lives forever. The town of Red Hollow was a small place in the mountains of Wyoming. During winter, the weather there was always harsh, and snowstorms were common. On this particular night, the snow fell heavily, and the wind was strong enough to shake road signs and push loose objects across the ground. The streetlights along the main road were dim because snow had coated most of the glass covers. Almost everyone in town had gone home early to avoid the dangerous weather. The streets were silent except for the sound of the wind blowing through the trees. A few miles outside the town, a black Harley trike moved slowly along the highway. The rider was Jax Carter, an American biker in his mid-30s. He had a tall, muscular build and many tattoos covering his arms and part of his neck. Even though his appearance looked intimidating, Jax was a quiet man who usually kept to himself unless someone needed help. He wore a thick leather jacket, jeans, heavy boots, and a full-face helmet. Every time he breathed, white steam leaked out around the edges of the helmet because the temperature outside had dropped far below freezing. Jax was heading back to the biker clubhouse after delivering a package for a friend in town. Riding in weather like this was always risky, but Jax was used to long trips and bad conditions. Tonight, however, the snow was falling so thickly that he had to slow down again and again just to see the road. His headlight barely lit a short distance ahead of him. Everything outside that beam was darkness and cold air mixed with wind. The farther he got from the town, the emptier the road became. No cars drove in front of him or behind him. He kept both hands steady on the handlebars, focusing on staying in the center of the lane. He knew that losing focus even for a second could cause the trike to slide on the icy surface. After about 15 minutes of riding, Jax noticed a strange shape ahead on the right side of the road. Because visibility was so poor, he couldn't tell what it was at first. It looked like a dark mound or a blown pile of snow, but as he got closer he realized the shape was moving. That immediately caught his attention. His instincts told him to slow down. He eased off the throttle and it looked more closely. When the headlight finally illuminated the area clearly, he saw 3 human figures. A woman stood near the shoulder of the road, holding a newborn baby wrapped in a thin blanket. Next to her was a young boy, maybe 8 or 9 years old, standing hunched over to shield himself from the wind. His right arm was in a cast, held tightly to his body. There was no car nearby, no broken-down vehicle, no luggage. Nothing that explained why they were standing there in the middle of a snowstorm at night. They looked lost, freezing, and exhausted. Jax hit the brakes right away. The trike slid slightly, but he brought it under control. The boy tensed up and grabbed the woman's coat sleeve. Jax switched the engine off, stepped off the trike, and immediately felt the sharp cold hit his body. He removed his helmet and held it under his arm. His breathing became visible in white bursts. He raised one hand slowly so they wouldn't panic and called out loudly, trying to speak over the wind. "Hey, are you guys okay?" The woman turned to face him. She shifted the baby protectively in her arms. She appeared to be in her late 20s or early 30s, with long dark hair wet from the snow. Her skin was pale, and her lips were cracked from the cold. Jax also noticed several bruises along her jawline and neck, old injuries, not caused by the storm. Her eyes were worried and defensive, showing that she didn't trust strangers easily. The boy, who stood beside her, stared at Jax with the same cautious look. Even though he was young, his expression was tense and serious. The cast on his arm was worn and slightly dirty. He clung to his mother's coat with his free hand. The woman coughed before speaking. Her voice was weak and shaking. "We're fine. We just need to keep going." But Jax knew instantly that they were not fine. No adult could safely walk in this storm, let alone a woman carrying a newborn and a child with a broken arm. He took a small step forward, keeping his voice calm and steady. "My name is Jax. I'm not here to cause trouble, but you can't walk in this weather. You'll freeze." The woman didn't answer. She only looked at him carefully, weighing whether he was a threat. Another strong gust of wind blew against them. Her thin coat opened slightly, and Jax noticed a large bruise on her wrist. That confirmed his suspicion. This woman wasn't simply lost. Something bad had happened to her. The The newborn began to cry softly, almost too weak to be heard over the storm. The woman tried to calm the baby, but her hands were shaking. The boy looked at the baby with worry, unable to help. Without hesitating, Jax pulled off his heavy leather jacket. He walked closer but stayed far enough so the woman wouldn't feel cornered. "Here," he said, "take this for the kids. I can handle the cold." He held out the jacket. His arms were fully exposed to the freezing wind, and the cold instantly stung his skin. The woman stared at the jacket, then at him. After a long moment, she reached out carefully and took it. Her hand brushed his briefly, and he felt how frighteningly cold her fingers were. She wrapped the jacket around the newborn first, then pulled the boy close to share the warmth. "Thank you," she whispered. Jax nodded, but the situation still bothered him. They had no destination and no protection from the storm. He asked, "Where are you going? Is someone waiting for you?" The woman stayed silent and looked away. Her lack of an answer told him clearly that they had nowhere safe to go. The wind grew stronger again, pushing snow across the road. Visibility dropped even more. Jax realized that if he left them here, the storm could easily take their lives. He looked at the woman, at the freezing baby, at the boy trying to act brave despite his injury. He understood what he had to do. He tightened his grip on his helmet and spoke firmly. "You're not walking anywhere in this. Come with me." And with that sentence, everything in their lives began to change. The wind grew stronger as Jax stood waiting for the woman's reaction. Snow gathered on his shoulders and hair, melting slowly on his skin. He didn't move any closer, giving her space to think. The newborn's weak cries mixed with the sound of the storm. The boy looked from Jax to his mother, unsure what to do. Finally, the woman spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. Where would we go?" Jax pointed to his Harley trike. "It's warmer than standing out here, and I know a safe place not far from here. You can rest there. Nobody will bother you." The woman hesitated. Her eyes showed exhaustion, fear, and doubt all at once. She looked like someone who had spent every bit of strength just trying to keep moving. The boy tugged gently at her coat. "Mom, it's too cold," he said quietly. His teeth were chattering. That seemed to break whatever resistance she had left. She nodded slowly. "Okay, just for now." Jax let out a breath he didn't realize he had been holding. "Good. Let's get you three out of this storm." He quickly assessed the situation. The trike was meant for one rider, but he had a reinforced seat behind him and enough space for the mother and the two children if they squeezed together. It would not be comfortable, but it would be far safer than walking. "Let's move fast," he said. "The wind is picking up." He stepped back to avoid alarming her and then gestured toward the trike. The woman approached carefully, still clutching the baby tight against her chest. The boy followed close, leaning slightly to the side to protect his broken arm. As they got closer, Jax noticed how thin the woman's coat truly was. It wasn't meant for winter at all. It looked like a light jacket someone would wear in fall. The baby's blanket was also too thin. He wondered how long they had been walking and why they hadn't found help sooner. When they reached the trike, Jax opened one of the small storage compartments and pulled out a pair of thick gloves and a scarf he kept as emergency gear. He handed them to the woman. "Here, use these." She hesitated again, then took the items. "Thank you." Jax helped her sit on the back seat, guiding her carefully so the baby was secure. The boy climbed up next, sitting between her and Jax's backrest. The boy held on with his good arm, trying not to jostle the cast. "Is the baby okay?" Jax asked, looking over his shoulder. "She's cold, but she'll be okay for now," the woman answered. Jax nodded and put his helmet back on. "Hold on tight. I'll keep the ride steady." The engine roared to life, vibrating under them. The noise made the baby whimper, but the woman gently rocked her, whispering something soft. Jax slowly eased the trike back onto the road. He kept the speed low, partly because of the storm, partly because he didn't want to scare the children. The wind hit them hard, but at least they were moving toward shelter. For a few minutes, none of them spoke. The only sounds were the engine and the storm surrounding them. Jax focused on the road, but he couldn't ignore the questions racing through his mind. What had happened to this woman? Why was she out here at night with two injured children? Why did she have bruises? And why did she look so afraid? He didn't ask yet. The first priority was getting them somewhere safe. After several minutes, he decided to break the silence gently. "What's your name?" There was a pause before the woman answered. "Mira." "Nice to meet you, Mira. And what about the kids? What should I call them?" The boy spoke up, his voice shaky from the cold. "I'm Liam, and this is Ella." "All right," Jack said. "Liam and Ella. Got it." He kept driving slowly, staying alert. The storm made it difficult to see more than a dozen meters ahead. He tightened his grip on the handlebars, feeling every shift in the wind. "Jax," Liam said after a minute. "Yeah? Are we going to be okay?" His voice was small, full of worry. Jax didn't hesitate. "Yes, you're safe with me." Liam didn't say anything else, but Jax felt the boy relax slightly. They continued down the highway, passing empty fields and frozen fences. The snow piled on the roadside in uneven mounds. After several more minutes, Jack spotted the turnoff that led toward the older part of Red Hollow, an area where few people lived now. The biker clubhouse and storage warehouse were located there, and it was usually empty at night. "We're almost there," Jack said loudly, so Mira could hear him over the wind. He made the turn carefully. The road here was narrower and covered with more snow, but he had ridden it many times before. A short distance ahead, he could see the dim outline of the warehouse, a long metal building with a row of small windows and a large sliding door. Jax brought the trike to a stop near the side entrance. The wind was blocked slightly by the building, making the area a bit calmer. He turned off the engine. The sudden quiet made the storm feel even louder in contrast. "Okay," he said, "let's get inside." He got off first, brushing snow off his arms. He helped Liam down gently, careful not to touch the boy's injured arm. Then he turned to Mira. "Take your time," he said. "I'll help you if you need it." She shook her head. "I'm okay." But when she slid off the seat, her knees almost buckled from exhaustion. Jax caught her arm lightly, not enough to scare her, but enough to keep her from falling. "You're exhausted," he said. "Let's go slow." Mira didn't argue. She simply nodded. Jax led them to the side door. He pulled out a keyring from his pocket, unlocked the door, and switched on the lights. The interior was simple but warm. Several chairs, a long table, a heating unit against the wall, and some storage shelves filled with supplies. "Come in," he said. "It's warm here." Mira stepped inside first, still holding the baby protectively. Liam followed, looking around the room with a mixture of nerves and curiosity. Once they were inside, Jack shut the door behind them, shutting out the noise of the storm. The warmth inside the warehouse was a relief. Mira exhaled slowly, and color began returning to Liam's face. The baby, Ella, stopped crying and settled into Mira's arms. "You can sit," Jack said, pulling out a sturdy chair. "I'll get the heater going stronger." He adjusted the heater until warm air flowed evenly into the room. Then he grabbed a clean blanket from a shelf and brought it over. "Wrap the kids in this," he said. "It'll help." Mira accepted the blanket with both hands. "Thank you, again." Jack shrugged lightly. "No problem. Anyone would have done the same." But Mira looked at him with tired, honest eyes. "No, not anyone." The way she said it made Jax's chest tighten a little. There was clearly a story behind that sentence, but he didn't push her to talk. He crouched down in front of Liam. "Let me check your arm. Is it hurting badly?" Liam shook his head. "It's okay. It just gets sore sometimes." Jax looked at the cast. It was old and slightly cracked in one place, as if it hadn't been taken care of properly. He didn't comment, but he filed the thought away for later. He then looked at Mira. "You must be freezing too. Are you hurt anywhere besides what I can see?" She shook her head quickly. "I'm fine." But Jax wasn't convinced. She looked like someone holding herself together with the last bit of strength she had. Still, he didn't ask again. They needed warmth, food, and rest before any conversation about their past. "I'll heat up some water," he said. "And I have food here. Nothing fancy, but it'll help." Mira nodded. "Thank you." Jax walked toward a small kitchenette area, giving them space. While filling a kettle, he glanced back. Mira was gently rocking Ella, and Liam was leaning against her side, eyes half closed. They looked safe for the first time that night. Jax turned back to the counter, jaw tightening slightly. Whatever had happened to them, it wasn't over yet. But for now, they were warm, they were inside, and they were alive. Inside the warehouse, the warmth slowly replaced the cold that had clung to everyone's skin. Mira sat with Ella wrapped in the leather jacket and the extra blanket Jax had given her. Liam stayed close to his mother, rubbing his good hand together for warmth. His cheeks were turning pink again. The boy looked exhausted, but at least he no longer looked like he was freezing. Jax finished heating water and poured some into a few metal cups. He mixed instant soup packets into the cups, stirring until the liquid turned a warm, soft color. The smell wasn't strong, but it was comforting. "Here," he said, carrying the cups to the table. "Drink slowly. It'll help warm you up." Mira hesitated, then nodded politely. She took one cup, holding it carefully so she wouldn't spill it on Ella. Liam accepted his cup too, but his eyes stayed on Jack's, still cautious but less tense than before. Jack sat down across from them. He wasn't wearing a jacket anymore, but he didn't seem bothered by the cold. His arms were still red from exposure, but he ignored that. He watched as Mira took small sips of the soup. After a moment, the boy quietly said, "Thank you for helping us." Jax nodded gently. "You're welcome. I'm glad I got there when I did." Liam looked down at his cast and began picking at the edge of it with his free hand. Mira noticed and immediately whispered, "Don't do that, sweetheart. You'll break it." Liam stopped, though he didn't look happy about it. Jax leaned slightly forward. "How long has his arm been in that cast?" Mira tightened her grip on Ella's blanket. "A few weeks, I think." "You think?" She avoided his eyes. "It's been a difficult time." Jax didn't push. He simply nodded and stood up. "I have some medical supplies here. I'll take a look at it later, if that's okay with you." Mira hesitated again, then whispered, "Yes, thank you." The heater hummed steadily in the background, warming the room bit by bit. For the first time since Jax found them, Mira seemed to relax slightly. Her shoulders weren't as stiff, her breathing slowed. Ella slept quietly in her arms, her small face no longer red from the cold. After several minutes of silence, Liam finally spoke. "Mom, can we stay here tonight? Just tonight?" Mira looked at him, conflict in her eyes. She opened her mouth, but didn't answer right away. Jack stepped in before she could respond. "You're staying here as long as you need. I won't send you back outside." Mira looked up sharply, surprised by his certainty. "I mean it," Jax added. "This place is safe. Nobody comes here at night. You can rest." Mira lowered her gaze. "We don't want to cause trouble." "You're not," Jack said firmly. "It's fine." He walked to a storage shelf, pulling down a folded sleeping bag and 2 extra blankets. He placed them on the table near Mira. "You can use these. I'll stay on the couch in the corner." She frowned. "We can't take your bed." "It's not a bed," Jax replied with a small shrug, "and you need the warm space more than I do." Mira slowly nodded, though she still looked uncomfortable accepting help. Jax didn't blame her. The bruises told him plenty. Trust didn't come easily to someone who had been hurt repeatedly. He sat down again, careful not to make sudden movements. "Do you want to tell me what happened?" he asked gently. "You don't have to, but it might help me figure out what you need." Mira stiffened. Her eyes dropped to the sleeping baby in her arms. For a moment, she simply breathed, as if deciding whether she could speak at all. Liam looked at her too, a worried expression on his face. Finally, Mira said softly, "We were in a bad place." Jax waited quietly. "My husband," she continued, her voice thin, "became violent. It wasn't always like that. But the last few years, things got worse. He hurt me." She paused and looked at Liam. "He hurt my son." Liam lowered his head, as if ashamed of something he had no control over. Mira continued, "I stayed because I didn't know what else to do. But last night, he went too far. Liam's arm," her voice cracked slightly. "Ella wouldn't stop crying because she was hungry, and he got angry again." Jax's jaw tightened. He looked at Liam, then at Ella. Both children had been through far more than they should have. Mira wiped her cheek with the back of her hand. "I grabbed the kids and left. I didn't bring anything. I just ran." Jax nodded slowly. "You made the right choice." Mira looked up, a mixture of guilt and disbelief in her eyes. "I don't know. Maybe I should have left sooner." "It doesn't matter now," Jax said firmly. "You got them out. That's what matters." Her eyes softened slightly at his words. Jax leaned forward just enough so she could hear him clearly. "You're safe here. I won't let anyone hurt you again." Mira looked stunned by his sincerity, as if no one had spoken to her that way in a long time. Before she could respond, Liam suddenly asked, "Is anyone else coming here tonight? Anyone dangerous?" Jack shook his head. "No, the guys from my crew won't come by until the weekend. And even if they did, none of them would touch a kid or a woman in trouble. They'd help you too." Liam seemed to relax at that. Jax rose to his feet. "Let me get you something warm to wear." He opened another storage container and pulled out a clean sweater that was small enough for Liam. Then he found another long-sleeve shirt that Mira could use as an extra layer. "These should help," he said, placing them beside her. Mira touched the clothes lightly, as if they were more valuable than they looked. "Thank you." "Want help putting it on?" Jax asked Liam. Liam nodded shyly. Jax knelt on one knee beside him and helped remove the boy's wet jacket, carefully, making sure not to hurt the broken arm. When the sweater was on, Liam's face brightened slightly. "It's warm," he said quietly. "That's the point," Jax said with a small smile. Mira shifted Ella gently. "She needs dry clothes too, but I don't have anything for her." Jax responded immediately. "I'll see what I can find. I think I have an old towel we can use to wrap her for now." He looked around the shelves again until he found a soft towel. Mira laid Ella on her lap and changed the baby's blanket, wrapping her in the dry towel instead. Ella stayed asleep, her breathing steady. Mira finally allowed herself to relax deeper into the chair. Jax watched all three of them for a moment. They were still scared, still tired, still unsure, but they were no longer in danger from the cold. He walked to the corner of the room where a couch sat, grabbed another blanket, and turned back. "If you need anything, tell me," he said. "I'll be right here." Mira nodded slowly. Thank you for everything." Jack sat down on the couch, leaning back while keeping them in his sight. "Get some rest. You're safe now." Mira looked at him for a long moment. The fear in her eyes didn't disappear, but it softened. She adjusted Ella in her arms, pulled Liam closer, and closed her eyes. Within minutes, all three were asleep. Jax remained awake, watching over them as the storm continued to shake the building outside. For the first time in a long time, he felt like he had done something truly important. The storm outside had not weakened, but inside the warehouse, everything was calm. Mira and the two children slept close together on the set of blankets Jax had arranged. Ella made small noises in her sleep, but otherwise she seemed comfortable. Liam's breathing was slow and steady. Mira, although tense even in rest, finally looked peaceful for the first time since Jax had met her. Jax sat on the couch, watching them quietly. He didn't want to fall asleep until he was sure they were safe. Every now and then, he got up to check the door or make sure the heater was working properly. The warehouse was an old building, and sometimes the power flickered during storms. After a while, Jax rubbed his eyes. He had been awake for too many hours. He stood up, stretched his back, and walked to the small window near the side door. Snow whipped across the glass, making it impossible to see much outside. Only faint shapes of fences and distant tree lines appeared when lightning flashed. He was about to turn away when something caught his eye, a pair of headlights in the distance. They were moving slowly along the highway. Jack stared at them for several seconds. Cars rarely passed this road during a storm, and definitely not at this hour. He frowned and leaned closer to the window. The lights didn't continue down the highway. They turned onto the same smaller road that led to the warehouse. A bad sign. He didn't panic, but he stayed completely still, watching the vehicle approach. The headlights bounced as the tires hit uneven snow, getting closer and closer. Jax turned his head toward Mira and the kids. They were still asleep. He whispered under his breath, "Damn!" The car finally came into view enough for him to recognize the shape. It wasn't a pickup or a ranch truck. It was a dark-colored SUV. Newer model, large frame, tinted windows. The kind of car someone with money or anger might drive. It slowed down near the warehouse. The headlights swept across the metal exterior, lighting up the room for a second. The SUV didn't park, not yet. It rolled forward a few yards, then backed up a little, like the driver wasn't sure whether he had found the right place. Jax's stomach tightened. There was only one reason someone would be out here, searching at this hour, in this weather. Someone was looking for Mira. He stepped away from the window quietly and reached for his phone. No signal. The storm was too strong. That meant no calls, no warnings, nothing. He walked to Mira and gently touched her shoulder. "Mira," he whispered, "wake up. We've got a problem." She flinched the moment she opened her eyes, as if expecting danger before she even understood the situation. Her breathing quickened. "What's wrong?" Jax kept his voice calm but firm. "There's a vehicle outside, an SUV. It slowed down near the warehouse. Might be your husband." Mira instantly tightened her arms around Ella. Liam woke up too, confused. "Mom? What's happening?" "We don't have time," Jax said. "You need to get up. We're leaving now." Mira stood, trembling but focused. He must have tracked us. He always finds us." Jax grabbed his jacket from the back of a chair. "Not tonight, he won't." He moved briskly, grabbing the blankets and stuffing them into a bag. Mira picked up Ella and held her close. Liam, still half asleep, tried to put his shoes on until Jax knelt beside him and helped. Stay close to your mom, okay? Jax said. Liam nodded quickly, fear showing in his eyes. Jax peeked out the window again. The SUV's headlights were off now. It was parked about 30 feet from the warehouse, almost invisible in the storm. All right, Jax said quietly, thinking fast. We're going out the back. Stay right behind me. He led them to the rear exit, an old metal door rarely used. He pushed it open carefully so the hinges wouldn't squeak. A blast of cold air hit them instantly. Snow piled high against the door, but Jax forced a path. Come on! They stepped out into the storm. The wind cut across their faces, making their eyes water. Jax moved quickly, guiding them along the side of the building, keeping it between them and the SUV. Mira whispered shakily, "He won't stop. If he sees us, he won't," Jax said. "Not if we move fast." He reached the corner of the warehouse and crouched down, motioning for them to stay low. He stole a glance toward the front. A shadow moved near the SUV. The driver's door opened slowly. Jax's jaw tightened. Whoever it was, they were searching for something, or someone. He leaned back to Mira. "We're getting to the trike." Mira's eyes widened. "But it's too cold. The kids—" "It's our only chance. If we stay here, he'll trap us." She swallowed hard but nodded. Jax signaled again, and they hurried toward the Harley trike parked near the side door. Snow had piled around the wheels, but the engine was powerful enough to break through if needed. He lifted Liam onto the seat, then helped Mira climb up with Ella. His movements were quick, practiced, controlled. "Hold tight," he said. "Both of you." He jumped onto the driver's seat and turned the key. The engine growled loudly, a sharp sound in the silent night, and a clear signal to anyone nearby. The figure near the SUV turned sharply at the noise. Jax didn't wait. He revved the engine and pushed forward. Snow sprayed behind them as the trike tore onto the road. Mira held Ella close, shielding her with her body. Liam gripped the backrest with his good arm, eyes wide with fear but trusting Jax completely. The SUV's headlights flicked on instantly. "Oh no," Mira whispered. Jax didn't look back. He only said, "Hang on." He throttled harder. The trike wasn't built for speed on snow, but it had power and weight, and Jax knew how to handle both. The rear wheels spun for a moment, then caught. Traction. The SUV surged forward, tires skidding but gaining speed. It closed the distance faster than Jax expected. "Jax!" Liam shouted. "I see it!" The road's visibility was terrible. Whirling white flakes, patches of ice, almost no sense of distance. But Jax focused on the road markers, gripping the handlebars with steady hands. The SUV gained another few yards. Mira gasped. "He's coming closer!" Jax responded immediately, steering the trike onto a narrow service road to the right. The SUV tried to follow, but fishtailed on the ice, giving them a few extra seconds. Jax kept going, weaving through the small side roads he had memorized over years of riding in Red Hollow. He took tight turns, pushed the trike through deep snow, and used every bit of experience he had. The engine roared loudly, echoing off the low hills. Behind them, the SUV appeared again, fighting to stay on their trail. "He won't stop," Mira whispered, voice trembling. Jax yelled over the wind, "I told you, I won't let him get you." He pushed the trike forward again. The storm grew thicker, visibility dropping even more. But this worked in Jax's favor. He turned off his headlight for a moment, just enough to disappear into the white chaos. The SUV sped past the turn he had taken. Mira looked around nervously. "Did we lose him?" "For now," Jax said, flipping the light back on. "But we can't go back to the warehouse. He'll return." "Where will we go?" Liam asked. Jax took a steady breath. "I know another place. It's farther, but safer." He didn't explain yet, but in his mind, he already knew the answer. An old cabin in the forest that his biker crew used occasionally. Remote, hard to find, almost impossible to reach in a storm, unless you knew the land like he did. He tightened his grip. "Hold on. We're going there." And the trike stormed forward into the night once again. The storm grew even stronger as Jax rode deeper into the forest roads. Snow covered everything. Trees, fallen branches, the narrow path beneath the trike's wheels. Mira held Ella close to her chest while shielding Liam with her arm. The wind was loud enough that even speaking would have been pointless, so they stayed silent and focused on holding on. Jax knew these roads well. He had ridden them in rain, wind, and even past storms, though nothing quite as harsh as tonight. The forest offered more shelter than the open highway, but it was still risky. Branches cracked under the weight of snow, and sometimes they fell without warning. After several minutes, Jack slowed the trike and pointed toward a faint wooden structure ahead. "We're almost there," he called out over the wind. Mira tightened her grip on Ella and leaned forward slightly, trying to see through the snow. Liam looked too tired to react much. His head rested against his mother's shoulder and his eyelids drooped. The cabin appeared fully once they got closer. It was a small, sturdy wooden building with a slanted roof and stone chimney. Snow had piled up around its base, but the structure itself was intact. Jax pulled up in front of the cabin, turned off the engine, and let the quiet settle in for a moment. "Okay," he said, swinging off the trike. "Let's get inside fast." He helped Liam down first, holding him by the waist so he didn't slip. Then he assisted Mira carefully, keeping one hand steadying her while she stepped off with Ella still wrapped tightly in her arms. The air felt even colder now that they weren't moving. Jax hurried to the cabin door, brushing snow off the handle before unlocking it with a small key he kept on a chain. He pushed the door open. "Go in. It's warmer inside." The cabin interior was dark at first, but Jax quickly found the light switch. A soft yellow glow filled the room. It wasn't warm yet, but it was sheltered and safe. Mira stepped inside and looked around. The cabin had one large room with a stone fireplace, a sofa, a small kitchen area, and a separate bedroom through a half-open door. Wooden shelves lined the walls, holding blankets, canned food, and old tools. "This is nice," Mira said quietly. Her voice sounded tired, but relieved. "It'll get warm soon," Jax replied. "First thing is the fire." He knelt by the fireplace, arranged dry wood from a nearby box, and lit it with a match. Within minutes, flames grew and crackled, slowly heating the room. Liam walked closer and held his good hand toward the fire. "That feels better already." Jack smiled faintly. "Yeah, it'll warm up quick." Once the fire was steady, he stood and faced Mira. "You should sit. You don't look steady on your feet." Mira didn't argue. She lowered herself onto the sofa gently, adjusting Ella so the baby could stay wrapped and close to her chest. Ella was still asleep, her breathing soft and regular. Jax dug through a storage cabinet, pulling out a large wool blanket. He handed it to Mira. "Wrap this around all three of you." She took it gratefully. "Thank you." While Mira settled in, Jax moved to the kitchen area. He filled a metal pot with water, set it on the stove, and turned on the old propane burner. The flame caught with a soft hiss. "Are you hungry?" he asked. Mira hesitated. Yes, but the kids first. I'm cooking enough for all of you," Jax said. "Don't worry." He pulled out cans of soup, beans, and a small package of pasta. It wasn't fancy food, but it was warm and filling. He cooked quietly while glancing back at them every few moments to make sure they were all right. Liam sat close to his mother, staring at the fire. Mira rubbed his shoulder gently. "Is your arm hurting?" she asked. "A little," Liam said, "but not as much as before." Jax overheard and said, "When you're done eating, I'll check the cast. Might need to secure it better." Mira looked up, concern in her eyes. "You know how to do that?" "Yeah. I grew up fixing things, and sometimes that includes people. I'll make sure he's comfortable." She gave a small nod, the closest thing to trust she had shown so far. When the food was ready, Jax carried 3 bowls to the low wooden table near the sofa. "Here you go. It's hot, so be careful." Mira waited until Jax handed Liam his bowl before taking hers. She blew on the steam gently and took a small sip. Her shoulders lowered as warmth spread through her. "This is really good," she said softly. "It's just canned soup," Jax replied, sitting down but keeping a respectful distance. "But it works on cold nights." They ate quietly. Liam finished first, almost surprising himself. Mira handed him the rest of her portion, smiling faintly when he accepted it without argument. Meanwhile, Ella stirred a little but didn't wake fully. Mira stroked her cheek gently. After everyone had eaten, Jax stood and brought a first aid kit from a wooden shelf. "Liam," he said, "I want to look at your arm now." Liam nodded and sat straighter. Jax knelt beside him. "This won't hurt. I'm just checking." He examined the cast carefully, feeling along the surface with gentle pressure. The cast had a couple of cracks, and the padding underneath seemed worn. "How did this happen?" he asked quietly. Liam glanced at his mother before answering softly. "I fell." Mira's face tightened, and Jax understood what the boy wasn't saying. He didn't push for details. "That's okay," he said, "but the cast needs reinforcing." Jax wrapped medical tape securely around the cast, tightening the damaged area and adding extra support. Liam winced once, but Jax slowed down and adjusted until the boy felt comfortable again. "There," Jax said. "How does that feel?" Liam moved his arm slightly. "Better. It doesn't wobble now." "Good." Jax then looked at Mira. "How's your wrist? I noticed the bruise." Mira stiffened. "It's fine. May I check? Just to make sure nothing's sprained." She hesitated for several seconds, then slowly extended her arm. Jax held it gently, checking for swelling or bone misalignment. Fortunately, it was a heavy bruise, not a sprain. "It'll heal," he said softly, "but you need rest." Mira withdrew her hand slowly. "Thank you." Jax closed the first aid kit and returned it to the shelf. As the fire warmed the cabin, the atmosphere softened. Mira's breathing grew steadier. Liam's eyes fought sleep. Ella slept peacefully, her face relaxed. Jax leaned against the counter, crossing his arms, watching them. Mira looked around the cabin and finally asked, "Why are you doing all this for us?" Jax shrugged lightly. "Because you needed help, and because I've seen situations like yours up close. I don't walk away from people who need protection." Mira held Ella a little closer. "Most people don't stop. Most people don't care." "Well," Jax said quietly, "I'm not most people." For the first time, Mira smiled, a small, tired smile, but genuine. "Thank you," she whispered. Jax nodded once. "Get some sleep. You're safe here." She didn't argue. Mira lay down on the sofa with the blanket wrapped around her and the children. Liam rested his head against her shoulder. Ella slept on her chest. Within minutes, they were all asleep again. Jax watched them for a long moment, then added more wood to the fire. He grabbed a chair, placed it near the doorway, and sat facing the cabin interior. He wasn't planning to sleep yet, not until he was absolutely sure they were safe. Outside, the storm raged on. But inside the cabin, for the first time in many days, Mira and her children finally had warmth and peace. The storm had finally begun to weaken by morning. Sunlight pushed through the clouds in thin, pale strips, and although the wind was still cold, the world outside the cabin looked calmer than the night before. Snow covered the trees, the roof, and the narrow road, but it no longer threatened to bury everything in its path. Inside the cabin, the fire still burned softly. Liam and Ella were curled under the blanket, sleeping peacefully. Mira lay beside them, eyes closed, but her breathing was deeper and steadier than the night before. For the first time in a long while, she seemed to have slept without fear. Jack sat near the window, drinking a cup of strong black coffee. He looked tired, but alert. He had slept less than an hour on the chair, not wanting to leave the family unprotected. Now, as the morning settled in, he allowed himself a small moment to relax. When Mira stirred, Jax looked over. "You awake?" She nodded slowly, blinking away sleep. "Yes. What time is it?" "A little after 8. Mira sat up, adjusting Ella in her arms. The baby stretched and whimpered softly, still half asleep. Liam rubbed his eyes and yawned. "Morning," Jack said. Liam mumbled something that sounded like a greeting before curling tighter under the blanket. Mira gave a small smile. "Thank you for letting us rest," she said quietly. "I didn't expect to sleep so long." "You needed it," Jax replied. "All of you did." Mira looked around the room, then back at him. "I still don't understand why you're helping us this much." Jax hesitated, then set down his coffee. "Maybe I should explain." He pulled a chair over and sat across from Mira, keeping his posture open and calm. "When I was a kid," he began, "my mom was like you." Mira blinked, surprised. "Like me?" "Yeah," Jax said. "She lived with a man who hurt her. Hurt us. We kept hoping it would get better, but it didn't." Liam looked up now, suddenly listening more closely. "My mom didn't have family nearby. She didn't have money. She didn't have a safe place to go." Jax tightened his jaw slightly. "The people around us didn't help. They pretended they didn't see the bruises, pretended nothing was wrong." Mira lowered her gaze. She understood that kind of silence too well. "One night," Jax continued, "something happened. Something bad. And my mom tried to leave, but it was too late." Mira looked up sharply. "Did she—" "She survived," Jax said, "but she was never the same. And I swore to myself that if I ever saw someone going through what she did, I wouldn't just walk away. I wouldn't be like the people who ignored us." Mira swallowed, emotions swirling behind her eyes. "That's why I stopped for you," Jax said. "That's why I'm helping." There was a long, quiet pause. Finally, Mira said softly, "I'm sorry you had to go through that." Jax shrugged. "It taught me who I don't want to be." Mira hugged Ella closer and looked at Jax with a new expression. One that wasn't fear or caution, but something closer to trust. "Thank you for telling me," she whispered. Jax nodded. "You don't have to tell me more about your situation than you want to, but I need to know one thing. Do you plan on going back to him?" Mira shook her head instantly. "No, never again." Her voice shook, but it was firm. "He almost broke Liam's arm," she said quietly. "He screamed at Ella for crying. He said—" She stopped and looked away, tears filling her eyes. "If we stayed longer, I don't know what would have happened." Jax leaned forward slightly. "You did the right thing leaving. That takes strength." Mira wiped in her eyes quickly, embarrassed. "I don't feel strong." "Strength isn't about feeling strong," Jax said. "It's about doing what you have to do. And you did." Liam looked at his mother, then at Jax. "Are you going to help us for real? Like, help us get away from him?" Jax nodded. "Yes, but we need to do it right. If your father is looking for you, and last night shows he is, then we need protection. Legal protection." Mira's face tensed. "But I don't have money for a lawyer." "You won't need money," Jax said. "One of my friends, part of my crew, is a lawyer, a good one, and he's helped people in situations like yours before." Mira shook her head slowly. "I don't want to drag you or your friends into this. My husband, he can get violent. He doesn't stop." Jax's expression hardened slightly. "He doesn't scare me, and you're not dragging anyone into anything. You deserve help." Mira looked unsure, like she wanted to believe him, but wasn't used to relying on others. Jax continued. "My friend can help you file a report, get legal protection, and start the process of keeping him away from you and the kids. But we'll need to go back to town eventually." Mira's breath caught. "If he finds us—" "He won't," Jax said firmly. "Not with help." He spoke with such calm certainty that Mira felt a small burst of safety she hadn't felt in years. Liam asked, "Will he go to jail?" "That depends," Jax said honestly. "But first, we need to make sure you and your mom and sister are safe. That's the priority." Mira finally nodded slowly. "Okay, if your friend can help, then yes, I'll do it." "Good," Jax said. "We'll wait for the storm to calm down more. Then I'll take you to him." For a few minutes, the cabin was silent except for the crackling fire. Mira stared into the flames. "I was always afraid to tell anyone. He used to say nobody would believe me, and part of me believed that." Jax leaned back in the chair. "That's what people like him want you to think, but he's wrong." She looked up at him. "Why are you so sure?" "Because I believe you," Jax said plainly, "and because people like my crew, they don't ignore things like this. They don't let abusers hide." Mira's eyes softened again, and she exhaled shakily. "I don't know how to thank you." "You don't have to," Jax said. "Just let me help." Ella stirred and began to fuss. Mira gently rocked her, whispering soothing words. Liam moved closer to her and laid his head on her shoulder. Jax stood and stretched. "I'm going to step outside and check the road. Stay in here. If you hear anything strange, call me." "Okay," Mira said. Jax put on his jacket and stepped out into the cold. The snow had slowed significantly. Tracks from last night's chase were already half covered. The forest was quiet, too quiet, but not in a dangerous way, just still. He scanned the tree line, making sure no vehicles or footprints were nearby. Everything looked clear. As he turned to go back inside, he made a decision. No matter how long this took, no matter what danger came with it, he would help Mira and her kids start a new life. He opened the cabin door. Mira looked up immediately, her eyes filled with lingering fear, but also hope. "It's clear," Jax said. "We're safe for now." And for the first time, Mira believed it. The storm had finally passed by early afternoon. The trees around the cabin were covered in thick layers of snow, and sunlight reflected off them like glass. The air was cold, but calm. No more violent winds or swirling white walls blocking the view. It was the first peaceful moment they had seen since the night before. Inside the cabin, Mira sat on the sofa while Ella nursed quietly. Liam played with a small wooden carving he had found on a shelf, turning it over in his good hand. Jack stood near the door, finishing a call on a satellite phone he kept for emergencies. When he finally hung up, Mira looked at him anxiously. "Was that your friend, the lawyer?" "Yeah," Jack said. "His name's Cole Matthews. He's meeting us in town in about an hour." Mira shifted nervously. Will people believe me when I tell them what happened? Yes, Jax answered firmly, because Cole knows how to handle cases like this. And because your husband crossed a line, a big one. Mira looked down at Ella. He always said nobody would listen, that nobody would care. Well, Jax said, grabbing his jacket, he was wrong. They left the cabin once the trike was warmed up. Jax drove carefully along the snowy forest roads, but the clear weather made the trip much easier. Mira held Ella securely under her coat, while Liam sat between them, looking more awake but still nervous. Are we safe? Liam asked quietly. You're with me, Jax said. You're safe. Liam nodded and leaned against his mother. When they finally reached the outskirts of Red Hollow, Mira tensed. The last time she had been in town, she had been running away. Now she was returning to confront everything she feared. Jax felt her shiver, not from the cold, but from anxiety. You don't have to be scared, he said gently. Cole will help. Mira took a slow breath. Okay. Cole Matthews waited for them outside a small law office near the center of the town. He was in his early 40s, with neat brown hair, a trimmed beard, and glasses that gave him a calm, intelligent look. He wore a black jacket and carried a thick folder under his arm. When Jax parked, Cole walked forward, offering a polite nod. You must be Mira, he said kindly. I'm Cole. Jax filled me in on the basics. Mira nodded nervously. Yes, thank you for seeing us. Of course, Cole replied. Let's get inside. We have a lot to go over. They entered the office, a quiet room with a large desk, 2 chairs, and a heater humming softly in the corner. Cole gestured for Mira to sit. Jax took a seat behind her, staying close. Liam sat on a chair beside his mother, holding her sleeve with his good hand. Mira kept Ella cradled in her arms. Cole opened his folder. Mira, I'm going to ask you some questions. Some might be difficult to talk about, but I need the facts so we can take legal action. Is that all right? Mira swallowed and nodded. Yes. Good, Cole said gently. Let's start with your full name and the children's names. Mira answered quietly but clearly. As Cole continued, he wrote down details quickly and professionally. How long did the abuse go on? Were there witnesses? Did anyone else ever intervene? When did he injure Liam? Why did you decide to leave last night? Mira answered every question with trembling hands but steady words. Jax stayed quietly behind her, offering silent support whenever she paused. When she described how Liam's arm had been broken, Cole's expression hardened. And you didn't take him to a hospital? He wouldn't let me, Mira whispered. He said doctors asked too many questions, and he was afraid police would find out. Cole nodded slowly. That actually helps your case. It shows clear intent to hide abuse. Mira looked surprised. It does? Yes, Cole said. It proves control, intimidation, and neglect. He continued writing. Liam rested his head against Mira's side, listening quietly. Cole finally set his pen down. All right, I have enough to file for an emergency protective order. It will stop him from coming near you or the children. Mira's eyes widened. You can do that today? Yes, Cole said. I'll file it immediately. Jax leaned forward. What about the police? I'll contact them too, Cole said. With the details Mira provided, especially the injury to Liam, they have grounds for arrest. Once the order is approved, we'll give a copy to law enforcement. Mira held Ella a little tighter. Will they actually come for him? Cole nodded. Yes, especially with Jax as a witness to your condition when he found you. Mira turned to Jax with gratitude in her eyes. Thank you for everything. Jax just nodded. You're doing the hard part. 2 hours later, the emergency order was approved by the county judge. Cole handed Mira a copy. This means he cannot come near you or the kids. If he tries, he will be arrested. Mira stared at the paper, trembling. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, Cole replied. Just stay with Jax for now. He'll make sure you're safe. Jax stood up. I'll take them back to the cabin until things calm down. Cole agreed. That's a good idea. I'll update you when the police take action. As if on cue, Cole's phone rang. He stepped aside to answer it. His expression sharpened. Yes, understood. We'll come in. He hung up and turned to them. Mira, the police are bringing your husband in for questioning now. A neighbor reported suspicious behavior. They found signs he tried to follow tracks during the storm. Mira's face paled, but Cole raised a calming hand. They have him. He's in custody. Jack saw Mira's shoulders finally loosen, as if a huge weight had dropped off her. Is he going to stay locked up? Liam asked, voice soft but hopeful. For now, Cole said. And with the injuries and Mira's statement, there's a strong chance he'll stay there longer. Mira covered her mouth with a shaking hand. Tears slipped down her cheeks, not from fear now, but relief. Jax placed a steady hand on her shoulder. You're safe. She nodded, crying quietly. Ella stirred in her arms but did not wake. Liam rested his head against Mira, finally able to breathe normally. Cole closed his folder. We'll continue the legal process in the coming days, but for now, go somewhere safe and rest. Jax guided Mira and the children back outside. The sun had come out, warming the snow slightly. Red Hollow felt more peaceful than ever. Mira looked around. The streets, the buildings, the sky. Everything seemed different now. Safe. She looked up at Jax. I don't know what would have happened without you. Doesn't matter, Jax replied simply. You're safe now. And for the first time since she fled her home, Mira truly believed it. The days after the arrest passed quietly. Snow slowly melted from the trees, sunlight returned, and the roads around Red Hollow cleared enough for regular travel again. For the first time in a long time, Mira and her children lived without fear of footsteps outside the door, raised voices, or sudden anger. During that time, Jax returned to the cabin every day. Sometimes he brought food, sometimes warm clothes, sometimes toys for Liam and getting baby supplies for Ella. Other times, he brought tools, because he had decided the cabin needed work if Mira and the kids were going to stay there for a while. The roof leaked in one corner. The back wall had cracks that let in cold air. The old water heater needed fixing, and Jax fixed all of it. One afternoon, Liam watched him from the sofa as he hammered new wooden panels into the wall. Do you fix everything yourself? Liam asked. Not everything, Jax said, smiling slightly. But I know enough to keep a place standing. Liam nodded, impressed. Mom says you work really hard. Jax kept his eyes on the wall. Your mom works harder than anyone I know. Liam looked down at his cast. She's been smiling more lately. Jax paused his hammering. Good. She deserves that. Mira, who had been rocking Ella near the fireplace, looked up at them. She didn't speak, but her eyes softened. Life still wasn't easy, but every day felt safer and more peaceful. A week later, Cole came to the cabin to deliver an update. The charges against your husband are going forward, he said, handing Mira a printed document. Based on your testimony, the medical report on Liam's arm, and Jax's witness statement, the court is confident in moving ahead. Mira's hands trembled slightly as she took the paper. So, he won't be able to find us? No, Cole said. The restraining order is solid, and he won't be released for a while. Mira exhaled deeply. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the relief settle over her. Thank you, she whispered. Cole smiled. You're welcome. And Jax, you did good. Jax shrugged. Just doing what anyone should. Cole smirked, patting him on the shoulder. Not everyone would have done it. Trust me. After Cole left, Mira approached Jax slowly. I don't know how to repay you, she said softly. Everything is better because of you. Jax shook his head. You don't owe me anything. But Mira didn't look away. You gave us safety, a home. I didn't think we would ever have that. Ella gurgled happily in her arms, as if agreeing. Jax smiled a little. I just wanted you to have a chance to start over. The following days felt almost normal. Something Mira had forgotten was possible. Liam helped Jax shovel snow away from the cabin. He took careful steps because of his cast, but he was eager to help. Mira cooked simple meals in the kitchen, while Ella lay in a small wooden cradle Jax had found in town and repaired for her. One morning, Mira stepped outside to find Jax sanding a new wooden board near the porch. You're always working, she said softly. Jax looked up at her, trying to make the place comfortable for you. You've already done more than enough. He wiped dust from his hands. It's not about enough. I want you and the kids to have a place that feels safe. Mira held Ella close and looked at him with gratitude. In those quiet moments, she realized how much of their new peace was because of him. Do you ever get tired? She asked. Jax laughed lightly. Sometimes, but not today. Mira smiled, a real warm smile that reached her eyes. Jax looked away briefly, feeling something in his chest he hadn't felt in years, something hopeful. A few more days passed. Liam's cast stayed secure thanks to Jax's reinforcement. Ella grew stronger, smiling more each day. Mira's bruises faded, and her confidence slowly returned. One evening, after dinner, Liam approached Jax while he was cleaning dishes. "Hey, Jax." "Yeah, buddy?" "Do you have a family?" Jax paused. He shook his head. "Not really. I've got the biker crew. They're like brothers, but no kids, no wife." Liam looked thoughtful. "Do you get lonely?" Jax didn't answer right away. "Sometimes." Liam nodded, as if the answer made sense to him. Without another word, he went back to sit with his mother, but Jax could feel the boy's question lingering in his mind. Another quiet morning came. The sun peeked through thin clouds, and the forest outside looked peaceful. Jax was outside stacking firewood when he heard the cabin door open behind him. Turning around, he saw Liam running toward him, coat halfway zipped and hair messy. "Jax, look!" Liam held up his arm. His cast was gone. Mira had just removed it because Cole had brought a doctor's note confirming the bone was healed enough for the cast to come off. Jax smiled widely. "That's great news! How does it feel?" Liam wiggled his fingers excitedly. "It feels normal again." Jax knelt down. "Careful with it for a few more days, okay? Don't punch anything yet." Liam laughed. "Okay." Then, without warning, the boy leaned forward and hugged him. Jax froze in surprise. Liam wasn't a kid who hugged easily, not after everything he'd been through, but this hug was tight, honest, grateful. After a moment, Jax gently hugged him back. Liam pulled away and looked up at him with bright, steady eyes. "Jax?" "Yeah?" The boy swallowed nervously but smiled. "Can I call you Dad?" The world seemed to go quiet for a moment. Jax felt the breath catch in his chest. No one had ever asked him that before. No one had ever looked at him the way Liam was looking at him now, with trust, admiration, and hope. Jax placed a hand on Liam's shoulder. "If that's what you want," he said softly, "then yes, you can call me Dad." Liam grinned, wide, genuine, happy. Dad. The simple word hit deeper than anything Jax had felt in years. Mira stood at the doorway, watching the moment with tears in her eyes. But they weren't tears of fear or sadness. They were tears of relief and joy. She walked toward them, holding Ella. When she reached Jax, she met his eyes. "You've given us a new life," she said softly, "and I want you to be part of it, if you want to be." Jax looked at Mira, then at Ella in her arms, then at Liam standing proudly beside him. A small smile appeared on his face, calm, real, certain. "I'd like that," he said. Mira took a slow, deep breath, the kind you take when you finally feel safe. She stepped closer, and the four of them stood together in front of the cabin that had once been a hiding place and was now their home. The sun shined gently on the snow around them. The forest was quiet, and for the first time in a long time, everything felt exactly right. A new family, a new beginning, a happy ending earned through courage, kindness, and hope. Sometimes, in our hardest moments, God sends help in ways we never expect. For Mira and her children, that miracle came through Jax, a biker with a tough look, but a heart guided by kindness. This story reminds us that God is always watching, always protecting, and He can place the right people in our lives exactly when we need them most. If this touched your heart, please like, comment, and subscribe. May God bless you and your family, and may He guide you through every storm you face.